Hello everyone. Today we will learn JavaScript, more specifically client-side JavaScript. What is a web page really? So we have content, right? But this content needs some structure, okay? And obviously this structure is not looking good, so we need some style. And to make this structure more responsive, more dynamic, right? We need some sort of behavior. So in any web application, content is words, images, right? Like on Facebook, you can see you can post text, which is comprised of many words, and you can post images, right? And but to give structure to these words and images, we use HTML. And for styling, we can use CSS. So for behavior, we can use some dynamic programming. In our case, it could be JavaScript, right? Or it could be Java, or it could be some other language. So this is a basically full stack web application architecture. You can see user is communicating through web browser and over the internet by using HTTP protocol, and it's communicating with browser is communicating with web server, right? And on the web server there would be some application server is also running, like Apache Tomcat. If we have some storage system to store our data permanently, we can use MongoDB or relational databases like MySQL or Oracle. So JavaScript is to Java as grapefruit is to grape. Obviously there is no link between JavaScript and Java language. So yeah, carpet is to car, as such there is no link. Similarly, catfish is to cat. What is JavaScript? A lightweight scripting programming language. It was created in 1995, so it's very old language. At that time it was very helping because we don't have so much faster internet speed and high performance computed servers, right? So it has some good parts, but obviously all parts are not good. So why JavaScript and not another language? Popularity because of its simplicity, because it's old, people are using, every browser is supporting this thing, right? The early web browsers supported it as a lightweight and flexible way to add interactivity to pages. Because this runs at client side, so people are happy to use that thing, right? Microsoft created their own version called JScript, but just like other failed applications of Microsoft, it also failed. And yeah, now if you want to run anything other than JavaScript in the browser, it's almost impossible, right? Because all browsers are happy to use JavaScript. So web page behavior with JavaScript. Now that we know that how to add content and styles to a web page, let's explore how to add responsive behavior. Okay, so HTML and CSS is doing this thing, structure and styles. Now if we want to add responsiveness or responsive behavior in our websites, we do need JavaScript. So we will use these building blocks to dynamically update what you see on a web page in response to clicks, text input, timers, stopwatch, right? So you can see in the picture that this HTML and CSS and this JS is JavaScript. So it would be running at the browser side. So client-side script. So in this lecture, we are talking about client-side JavaScript. So client-side JavaScript is usually run after HTML and CSS have been loaded on the browser. Often this JavaScript manipulates the page or responds to user actions through event handlers. So this is very important. Like if you click on some button, this is one event. So on click, you can ask JavaScript to do something. Might be it can show you some pop-up message. It can ask or it can prompt some input from you, right? So we can use JavaScript functions to insert dynamic text into HTML. For example, on click, I can change text in between heading 1, okay? Or even on click, I can change my image source. So other thing that I can do with JavaScript function is to react to events, right? On page load, like I can say welcome message, or I can confirm, do you want to leave this page, right? Or I can track users mouse click. Third thing is like getting information about users computer, browser settings, browser name, operating system, date at user's computer, right? You can add comments in JavaScript which are very similar to Java language. Like for single line comment, 2 slashes, right? It would be for single line comment. For multi-line comment, we can use this way, very similar to the Java language. Yeah, they are identical to Java's comment syntax. Variables, declaring variables in JavaScript is very easy. We don't have to provide its data type, and it usually starts with let or var keyword, case sensitive, right? And then we have to give the name of the variable and then its value. We can initialize it, and from the value it will determine automatically that what is the data type of a particular variable. So yeah, it's very easy. Var keyword can be used, but I would suggest not to use that thing to declare variable. It's not safe. So always declare variables with let keyword. So we can declare similarly arrays, right? So types are not specified, but JavaScript does have types, loosely typed: number, boolean, string, array, object, function, null, undefined. So number type, so if I'm saying enrollment is equals to 99, so this is number, right? And integer and real numbers are the same type, no int versus double, just like in many other languages, Java and C++. So int and double in JavaScript language is same. All numbers in JavaScript are floating point numbers, okay? And on these numbers, we can apply same operators with same precedence rules, right? That plus, minus, multiplication, division, modulus operator, increment, decrement, equals, right? So we can use all these operators uh, and similar precedence to Java language. We can declare strings. So any expression having double quotes would be considered as a string, okay? And we have so many functions to get information about strings. Like very important one is length of the string. So if I write this code like nickname, and nickname dot length will give the total length of this string, which is 15. And similarly, I can use different methods, character at, character code at, or to lowercase or to uppercase, I can convert. Yeah, I can split, or I can get substring of a string, or even I can replace particular character or set of characters with a new substring. So JavaScript do have some escape sequences, just like Java language. And here we can use new line, right? Backslash n is new line, backslash t tab thing, right? And we can also assign null and undefined values. The difference between null and undefined value is that when value is not available, right, then it's undefined, okay? And when value exists, but it could be empty or it could be null, then it is null, right? So we can use arrays and we can iterate it through loops. Defining functions, uh, with function keyword, we have to write the name of the function. Then we have to define parameters if there are, otherwise there would be no parameters. And we can return if we want to return some values. So if we compare this JavaScript function, this one, with Java method, right? So you can see that we have to define public static thing, right? Scope, and it could be, then we have to define the data type of returning variable. Name is same, okay, repeat, right? And here we are just providing two parameters, but here we have to provide its data type also in Java. So in JavaScript we don't need this thing, so that's why it's very simple and popular. And so you can see here we are declaring one variable, assigning value of string str that are coming from the parameters to the result. Then this is a for loop. Here we are declaring one variable I, initializing it with the value 1, then stopping criteria that it should be less than n, and then we are incrementing our loop one by one. Okay, so this is a loop structure in JavaScript. Now we can go to NetBeans and see few examples of JavaScript. Okay, I have few examples of JavaScript, so let me run and we will go through these examples one by one. So first, very example, the easiest one could be alert pop-up window. Like if I click on this page or link, this page will be open, but just before opening, it will pop up some message. Okay, so I can click on it. So it's saying hello from the JS file. So now we are on the alert.html page. Okay, so we can explore its code. So here, simple, it's a link to alert.html. So we will see code on alert.html. So you can see here, I'm adding one JavaScript file. Just like CSS, we can either write JavaScript directly in HTML page or inline JavaScript, or the best way is to declare or define new file and put all the JavaScript code in that file. Okay, so here we are just using one JavaScript file, js/alert.js. So it's here, but let's say I will remove this code. Okay, now this code is removed. Let me run again. So alert pop-up window, right? So you can see there is no pop-up now. So we can explore another document.write example. So this is very simple example. If I can open. So here I'm not adding a new file of JavaScript, but writing JavaScript code in HTML file. What it will do, I'm just saying document.write, put one heading 1, h1 tag, HTML tag, and then this code, right? This document means your HTML page, okay? And you are writing some code here, okay? So let's say instead of this, I can say that writing to JS write function. Okay, I can run. So you can see now input is on the HTML page. So we can use prompt window example as well. Here it's asking name, so let's say Jamal. So it's printing good morning Jamal. So we can see how this is printing. So we have to go to prompt.html. Here we can see again code is within the HTML file. We can just copy paste this all code in a separate JavaScript file and link with this file. Okay, so in code what we are doing is that we are declaring one name variable. We are getting JavaScript function date to get date, right? And then we are getting input from the name. Then we are getting input from the user, his or her name, right? Window dot prompt. And from date we are just getting hours. And if that hour is less than 12, then it's morning. So we are just concatenating good morning with this message and name, which we are getting from the prompt input box, right? And if range is between 12 and 18 hour, then we will say good afternoon, and after that we will say good evening. So after that we are using same document.write, this time ln, new line, right? Print ln in Java, right? And in heading 1 we are just printing this value of greeting. So I can run this code again. So prompt window name could be ABC. So it will say good morning ABC. We can ask user, do you want to see the time, right? If I press OK, it will show the current time. Okay, so this is for confirmation. You have seen this sort of confirmation when you are leaving some website or submitting some form and just asking again that do you really want to add this data, right? So we can explore its code, confirm.html. So here you can see I am using confirm function. Do you want to see the time is a text. Then if and storing in answer, which would be boolean, true false. If that thing is true, it means that I have to get date and I have to print that date by using document.write. Okay, and if user say no, then we can ask again, or we can show some pop-up message, why not, or anything, right? So confirm window, cancel, and it's saying why not. Okay, another example we can see is get element by ID. This is very important example because by this example you can manipulate any tag, HTML tag. You can change values of HTML. Okay, so get element by ID. So this is one ID, and if I click on it, so just remember from the slides that click is an event. On click we can call JavaScript function to do something. Okay, so I am clicking here and it will change the text and even some style as well of that div. Okay, so we can explore its code. Get element by id.html. So here I am using one JavaScript file, right? So we can see get element.js. So here there is only one function. Usually we don't make separate JavaScript files for each function. like we have 1 or 2 JavaScript files and we just add all the functions in that JavaScript file. Okay, so here I am defining one function, click div, and if I can show you get element by ID. Yeah, so this is div, and this ID is, you can say that, unique ID of this div, so that JavaScript know that, so that JavaScript can easily manipulate the information about this div. Okay, so this is unique ID for this div. It could be any, and on click we are calling one JavaScript function, click div, right? This should be matched with this one, document dot get element by ID. Remember, this document means we are referring to our HTML page, which is this one, get element by ID dot HTML. Okay, so document dot get element by ID, we are using one function to get element by ID, and this is the ID first div, which should be matched with this ID first div, right? So after getting this, now we can control this div in our JavaScript code. Okay, so once we have this line, then we can simply say that, okay, for this div dot inner HTML, just write this thing. Okay, or you can change its style. Okay, so for example, if we have image, we can simply change its source. Okay, we can run again. So get element by ID. So I will click here and you can see the value is changed and the style is also changed. Okay, next example, this would be the last one for this tutorial. We will cover all other examples in the next tutorial. On load, it's just printing first div. So we will see its code. So on load.html, what we are doing is that we are creating one event in body. So whenever this body tag would be executed in the browser, it will call one function of JavaScript, change div. What it will do is that, like, it will simply change or replace HTML values, inner HTML text of this div. Okay, so instead of this, we are just replacing this on load with this one. Okay, might be you can add one alert here as well. So you can say that body tag loaded, right? And I can simply run on load. So you can see body tag loaded pop-up message, right? And after that, it will change this thing.